Hello friends, welcome to Self Mastery. Today we are going to talk about the book Dopamine Detox by Thibaut Meurisse. In today's world, we all face a huge and hidden danger: overstimulation. This means our brains are constantly bombarded with so much information, entertainment and distractions that we can't even think clearly. Perhaps you don't even realize it, but when you wake up and immediately pick up your phone to open WhatsApp, Instagram or YouTube, that's exactly when this overstimulation begins. In his book, Thibaut Meurisse explains how our brains are surrounded by dopamine-triggering things every moment. Dopamine is a chemical that makes us feel good, but when it's in excess, it harms the brain. For example, when you get a notification or your favorite YouTuber uploads a new video, you feel a small burst of happiness. This is the effect of dopamine. But if this happens repeatedly, the brain becomes addicted to easy and quick pleasure. After that, when a task comes along that requires effort, like studying, a project, or any important work, the brain doesn't want to pay attention to it. Let's take a real-life example. Imagine your name is Lucas. Lucas is a college student. The first thing he does after waking up in the morning is reach for his phone. He scrolls through Instagram for a while, then moves from one reel to another. After that, he checks messages on WhatsApp. Then he starts watching a 5-minute craft-type video on YouTube. His plan was to start studying at 9 a.m. because he has an exam next week. But by the time he's done with all this, it's already 10 a.m. Then he thinks, let me eat something first, then I'll study. While eating, he opens Netflix and starts watching an episode. And before he knows it, 2 episodes are over. He then feels guilty, but still can't bring himself to focus on studying. This isn't just Lucas's story, it happens to all of us. We consume so much stimulation all the time that our brain isn't ready to do anything boring or difficult. Any task that requires a bit of patience, focus, or attention seems hard. In reality, our brain gets addicted to instant rewards. The reward that comes from notifications, social media likes, reels, or eating chocolate. These things shorten our attention span. Previously, we might have been able to study with concentration for 1 hour, but now the thought of our phone comes to mind in just 10 minutes. And for this reason, motivation also fades, because the brain has become accustomed to easy things. Now if a task seems difficult, the brain says, why bother? Let's watch something else. This not only affects productivity, but also slowly diminishes self-confidence. Imagine you started learning to play the guitar. The first day felt great, you learned a few chords. The second day was a bit difficult, and your fingers started to hurt. Then you remembered that a new season of your favorite show has been released on Netflix. You thought, I'll just watch one episode and then practice the guitar. But that one episode never stops at one, and slowly, the guitar practice gets left behind. This is the trick of overstimulation. It slowly eats away at your willpower. At first you might think you're in control, but in reality, all these small dopamine hits are controlling you. It's a silent enemy of the digital age. And the worst part is, it doesn't let you feel that anything is wrong. Because whenever you feel bored, you find pleasure with just one swipe or a single tap. You never get the time to ask yourself, what am I doing? Or what should I be doing? So what's the solution? Is watching Netflix wrong? Should you quit using Instagram? No, not at all. The problem arises when these things start controlling you and you lose your own control. You need to set some boundaries for yourself. For example, checking social media only at specific times of the day, or turning off notifications so your attention isn't broken repeatedly. And most importantly, you have to quit the habit of running away from boredom. Whenever you feel bored, you should pause for a moment and think, can I do something meaningful? Maybe at that time you could do some journaling, go for a short walk, read a book, or just relax for a bit without a screen. Slowly, as your brain detoxes from overstimulation, you'll find it easier to focus. You'll start enjoying the tasks you previously found boring, like reading, learning something new, or working on a project. Real power comes when you can keep yourself stable in an ocean of distractions. When the constant swing of dopamine is pulling you, and yet you can maintain your focus. So take a small step starting today. Try to reduce your stimulation. Choose one habit that distracts you repeatedly, like watching reels or checking your phone every 5 minutes, and bring some control over it. It will be difficult at first, but gradually your brain will regain its balance, and you yourself will see that your attention has started to increase. Your motivation is becoming stronger, and you're taking interest in tasks that once seemed impossible. Fighting overstimulation is a process, but if you work on it, you will see the most focused, calm, and powerful version of yourself. Because real satisfaction isn't in binge-watching Netflix, but in completing the task that you set for yourself.
Nowadays, we all have a common question. Why can't I focus on my studies? Or why am I not interested in my work? It feels as if motivation has disappeared somewhere. Things that used to bring joy now seem boring. If you feel this way too, then it has a deep connection with a chemical in our brain, dopamine. Many people think that dopamine is only associated with pleasure or happiness. But Thibaut Meurisse clearly states in his book that dopamine is actually linked to motivation, not just pleasure. When you feel an attraction towards something, like the desire to watch something exciting or a strong urge to do a task, it's all because of dopamine. Now think, whenever you see tasty food, or you get a new notification, or you get stuck on a viral reel while scrolling Instagram, at that moment your brain releases dopamine. It signals to you, yes, this is fun and will bring a reward. That's why you want to do it again and again. This is the role of dopamine, to push you towards getting a reward. Now imagine you pick up your phone every morning and check WhatsApp, Instagram, YouTube, Snapchat one by one. Each platform gives you a new dopamine hit. You watch a reel, you get dopamine. You watch another, more dopamine. And this cycle continues without stopping. Your brain releases dopamine so many times that it gets used to high levels of stimulation. Now when you sit down to do something normal, like reading a book or working on an assignment, your brain doesn't release as much dopamine, and you feel that this is boring or this isn't fun. In reality, that task isn't boring. Your dopamine system has become weak. Now it needs excitement, it needs a thrill, it needs instant reward. Let me explain with an example. There's a boy named John. He used to love reading books. Every week he would finish a new book. But then he gradually became interested in social media. Reels, memes, YouTube shorts became his daily routine. At first he thought it was just a little relaxation. But after a few months, he noticed that whenever he sat down to read a book, he couldn't concentrate. After just 2 pages, he would pick up his phone. He no longer got the excitement he used to. What actually happened was that his dopamine receptors received stimulation so often and so quickly that now simple things don't release dopamine. That's why studying, reading, or any long-term goal-oriented task no longer gives him pleasure. And when something doesn't give pleasure, motivation naturally disappears. Therefore, the right balance of dopamine is very important. If dopamine is repeatedly overstimulated, it loses its effect. Think of it like a speaker. If you always keep the speaker's volume at full, its sound clarity will gradually fade. Similarly, when the brain takes in a high volume of dopamine, from reels, likes, junk food, video games, constant notifications, it loses the clarity of simple pleasures. Now, what is the solution? Should we stop dopamine? No, because dopamine is not bad. It is your friend. It motivates you to take action. But you have to learn to activate it correctly. For this, you first need to pay attention to your overstimulation habits. One day just observe yourself and see when you are getting a dopamine hit. For instance, checking your phone every 10 minutes, jumping on every notification, opening YouTube to escape boredom, or scrolling Instagram between every task. Now think, if you are consuming dopamine all the time, your brain never gets a chance to recharge. It doesn't get to reset. So whenever you sit down to do real work, the dopamine is already burnt out. This is why there's a practice called dopamine detox. This doesn't mean you have to throw away your phone or be bored all the time. It means setting aside some time every day where you do low stimulation activities. For example, going for a walk without your phone, writing on paper, sitting quietly, or just letting your mind think. When you do this, the brain slowly resets. Then you'll start getting the same dopamine rush from reading a book that you used to get from memes, and that's when motivation returns. Another method is to create an intentional reward system. This means first do the hard work, then take the reward. For example, if you study for 30 minutes, then watch reels for 10 minutes. This teaches your brain that effort is necessary to get a reward. And this very habit brings back motivation. We often think we need motivation, but in reality, we need to use dopamine correctly. Motivation will come on its own when your brain learns to enjoy natural rewards again. Now for a little trick. Whenever you have to start a task and don't feel like it, just start it for 5 minutes. Just 5 minutes. When you start, the brain releases dopamine, and that small start pushes you to keep going. Action increases dopamine, and dopamine increases motivation. The most interesting thing about dopamine is that it's released not at the finish line, but during the journey. When you're moving towards a task, when you feel you're making progress, that's when dopamine peaks. So when you break down a goal into small steps and start achieving them, your motivation stays intact. So the next time you feel demotivated, don't think you lack willpower. Think that maybe your dopamine system is overloaded. Now it needs a pause, a little detox. Enjoy social media, reels, games, all of it, but with control. If you live on dopamine all the time, your brain won't be able to feel happy from any real achievement. But if you can stay away from these temporary pleasures for a while, you'll find a strength that is rare in today's digital world: discipline, patience, and clarity. This is the real purpose of a dopamine detox, so that you can move from distraction to direction.
Whenever we talk about a dopamine detox, the first thing that comes to mind is, well, if I have to quit social media, the internet, video games, junk food, and other high-stimulation things, what will I do all day? Just sit and pass the time. And this is where the need for alternative activities arises. Activities that provide low stimulation but help reset our brains. It's important to understand one thing here. Low stimulation doesn't mean boring. It means activities that don't overexcite our brain but are still valuable. The real purpose of a detox is to give our mind enough peace to look inward and understand its true desires and goals. The very first activity is meditation. Meditation means focusing your mind. Now, many people think meditation is boring or difficult, but in reality, it's a very powerful way to calm your mind. When you just focus on your breath without any distractions, you start to observe the internal noise of your mind. Initially, it feels a bit uncomfortable because we are not used to silence. But as you practice, you will find a different kind of clarity and peace. The second activity is walking. But this isn't about a fancy gym walk or a treadmill. This is about a simple, silent walk, preferably without a phone, without music. When you walk alone on a road or in a park and just focus on your thoughts or observe nature, your brain naturally starts to relax. In this process, you often start finding answers to your questions that you had forgotten behind the screen. Writing or journaling is another very effective activity during a detox. When you write down your feelings, thoughts, worries, or gratitude on paper, you are emptying your mind. You are expressing your emotions without any judgment. Many times, it's only when we write that we realize what we are truly feeling inside, and this understanding helps us move forward. Now comes one of the most underrated activities: doing nothing. Yes, you read that right. Just sitting quietly without picking up your phone, without any task. This seems like the most difficult thing in today's time because our mind wants some stimulation every second. But when you allow yourself to do nothing, you learn to face boredom. And from here begins deep creativity. Many great ideas came to people when they were doing nothing. Einstein used to think on the train, Newton sat in a garden. During a detox, you can do other things too, like reading a book, but make sure the book isn't a novel or a thriller, but something that makes you think slowly, like self-help, philosophy, or a biography. Such books gently stimulate your mind without overwhelming it. Drawing, painting, or any creative activity that you can engage in quietly is also very effective. This isn't about becoming an expert. Just pick up a brush, spread some colors, and create something freely. Your brain naturally gets absorbed in the process and you become mindfully present. Gardening, cooking, or any hand-based physical activity is also best for detox. When you create something with your own hands, like planting in the soil or making a simple meal, you experience a sense of grounding. These activities bring you into the present moment, where there are no notifications, no rush. Many people pick up their old hobbies during detox, like playing music, not listening, writing poetry or photography, but in a very mindful way without getting caught up in the internet or likes. Now, let's take an example. A girl named Sophia. Sophia would turn on Netflix every day, tired from work.
then scroll through Instagram and watch YouTube late into the night. One day she decided, that's enough. I'm going to do a dopamine detox. On the first day, she put her phone on airplane mode. And her first confusion was, what will I do now? In the first hour, boredom overwhelmed her. She kept looking at her phone but held herself back. Then she sat on her balcony with a cup of tea and just observed nature. Then she took out an old diary and started writing random thoughts. After a while, she got so engrossed in her own emotions that she didn't realize how time flew by. Then in the evening, she went for a walk without her phone and looked at her surroundings as if for the first time. At the end of the day, she felt as if her mind had opened up for a while, refreshed. She realized how often she was just distracting herself to escape boredom, and in the process, how far she had drifted from her true self. All these activities are the backbone of a detox. They tell your brain that you can survive without stimulation, and more than that, you can thrive. Understand one thing. Low stimulation activities are not boring. They are things that bring balance to your mind. They bring you back from hyperspeed to normal speed, and when you start getting into that rhythm, you find real peace and focus. Doing these activities during a detox will be difficult at first, because your mind will constantly want something exciting. But as you practice, you will realize that this is the real richness of life. A peaceful morning without distractions, an honest thought in your journal, a simple walk without any hurry. These are the best tools to reset your mind. And the most special thing is, this all is already within you. You don't need any app, any course, just a little awareness and willingness. So, the next time your mind says do something, pause for a moment and ask, is this activity stimulating me or calming me? This very question can be your guide on the journey of a dopamine detox.